live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with Fairygodboss and Career Circle. We will give you all a few moments for everyone to log on, but for those of you who are on, if you don't mind dropping in the chat that you can hear me okay, because I would hate to have just a conversation with Kim and Cecily. So if you can hear me, just let me know. Perfect. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. All right. Well, now that we know the tech is working, let's go ahead and dive in. My name is Mary. I'm with Fairygodboss, and we are so pleased that all of you could join us today. For those of you who may not be familiar, Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women, and we provide a variety of free resources for the millions of women who visit our site every month. Things like this webinar, virtual recruiting events, content, job listings, all of those fun things you can access on our site at any time. A few housekeeping items. You can see the chat is available. If you have a question, you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will try and get to as many questions at the end of the presentation as we can. We also have some polls in this presentation, so we hope you all will chime in when we launch them, and feel free to make comments, share anything in the chat. And as always, you have the ability to share your poll responses and your chats anonymously as well. So without further ado, I am going to hand it over to our friends at Career Circle to tell you a little bit about the work that they do and dive right into our presentation on how we can all overcome the skills gap. So I will turn it over to y'all.
Thank you so much, Mary. Hello, everyone. We are thrilled to be here today. Today, we're going to talk about overcoming the skills gap and what that really means. We're also going to talk about some of the skill sets that are in demand right now, and how you can inventory your own skills, and then what you can do to find learning solutions if what you currently have and what you're looking to achieve don't align right now. So we're going to dive in. My name is Cecily Gugesberg, and I am the Outreach Manager here at Career Circle. In that role, I get to partner with amazing groups like Fairygodboss and help individuals such as yourself take your careers to the next level. We focus on discounted upskilling opportunities, job search assistance, and we also provide career coaching. So we're really thrilled to be here. Any questions you have, as Mary said, throw them in the questions and answer box, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Prior to Career Circle, I was actually in the staffing and recruiting industry for about 10 years. I also have experience internally with organizations, so I have perspective from both lenses. I like to think of myself as conference calls and coffee by day and messy buns and motherhood by night. So a little bit about me, I guess, personally. And I'm going to hand things over to Kim, our managing director.
All right, thanks, Cecily, and welcome, everyone. We are so excited for this opportunity, and Mary, thank you for the invitation. I'm Kim Snyder. I am our Managing Director of Career Circle. I spent the last 21 years within the Allegis family of companies, but primarily on the staffing side, and always working to put people to work and help them be connected to the jobs and the careers that they're looking for. And we're going to talk a bit about Career Circle and why I transitioned over and we built the community. So Cecily, can you go to the next slide for us? All right, so this is why within that 21 years that I've been with the Allegis family, we came over to launch and build Career Circle. So in its simplest form, I am passionate about changing the way that the industry looks at talent. And this, it requires a ton of work and it requires passion, but it all stems from taking care of people that are like yourself that are on this call today. And we built this community really based on what we were hearing from individuals, what they wanted. You know, the first thing they wanted was access to jobs. But what else did you need on that journey? Number one, we needed trust. People needed to know they had a confidant, someone that could give them information that had their best interest. And they also needed access to the education or curriculum or coursework. I was amazed when we came over to build Career Circle that the education sector was far bigger than even staffing. And while that's great in a lot of ways because there's so many different opportunities and different choices, it's actually very overwhelming as well. And so within that, people also wanted a network. They wanted mentors and people to help them on that journey. So when you think about our vision, it is about preparing the workforce of today for the opportunities of tomorrow. And we're going to talk a bit more about that. But in its simplest form, if you take everything that we talked about, what I really want to do at the end of the day is remove the phrase, you weren't qualified from our vocabulary. I don't think the conversation has to end there. And to me, that's not inspiring. I'm okay with you weren't qualified right now at this current time on Tuesday, but that's not where it should end. So Cecily, if we can advance the slide.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped ahead, Kim. I was getting excited.
That's okay. So why are we talking about this skills gap? And let's move forward. So look at how the world has changed. And as we were building this slide, I almost had to laugh because when you're living life and you're in the everyday, Cecily talked about the mom and the bun, it's some part of her day, and then building a company at others. Life gets chaotic and complex, and sometimes we're living it and we're present, but we don't realize that in the 1700s, transportation was handled through steam, and then today, connective intelligence. It is amazing to see how the world has evolved. And what's important to do is to sit back and reflect for a moment and think about, okay, well, how have the skills that are required to form those jobs or to complete those, how have those evolved as well? See, you see the statistic up there that it says 33% of in-demand skills will be new by 2020. Yes, because this will continue to evolve. Right? And what's also important is, sometimes when I've heard things like I'm not qualified or I'm having a conversation with someone, that could feel like, am I the only one? Is everybody else, do they have access to these skills? And am I not good enough? But see, the reality is all of us are facing that. And quite honestly, this isn't a one-time event. It's not like you'll have access to the skills, you'll get them, and then you're good to go because life is going to continue to happen and evolve. And so for me, it's thinking about who is my partner on that lifelong journey, because this isn't going to be a one and done kind of thing. So Cecily, can we look at the next slide? All right, so here's our first poll question, and I want to hear from you out there. When you think about it, have you ever been told that you aren't qualified? Now, I said we were going to take it out of our vocabulary, but for this moment, let me know. A, yes, you have been told that you aren't qualified for a job, or B, no, you have never heard that. And I think Mary's launching that for me. Thank you so much, Mary.
Yep, our results are coming in and looking like about 57% have been told yes, they are not qualified for a job. And about 44% say no.
Wonderful. All right, so let's look at the next slide now that we know that. So more than half of you have. So let's do something about it, right? Look at this. We see that most of us have been told we aren't qualified. And again, as this continues to evolve, because we're seeing so much change, there is a probability that more and more people will be impacted. And so what do we do? This statistic in some way inspires me, in some way it drives me nuts, because you keep hearing that there's going to be a talent shortage of 85.2 million people by 2030. But see, it doesn't have to be. We are predicting something that is 10 years out. And I keep saying, Cecily and I talk about it all the time, let's do something about it. Let's be the changers in this market. Let's really start talking about changing lives. You see up here that it says 55% of the workforce is going to need upskilling. That's not because anyone's behind. That's because of that steam engine that I just showed you from the 1700s and where we are now, and then where we will continue to go. And then by 2022, you see that no less than 54% of our employees will require significant reskilling and upskilling. This is a fact, and this is something that if our mindset is right about it, becomes pretty inspiring. You know, my background is staffing, launching a technology company, which is the basis of our platform. There was a ton of upskilling that I had to do as well. So I've been living and breathing this as an individual right along with you. So let's look at our next slide. I put in here the employer slide because I think it's important. This is really coming from the lens of the different companies that we're trying to work for or that you might have interest in. So what they're telling you is that they believe that they need to find a way to help their current employees get the skills they need, and then also that they don't believe that they have access to the level of skill that they're looking for. You know, you see on here that it says 85% of them agree that they need a way to acquire talent faster. And sometimes it's about building talent pipelines. Some of you might be wanting to consider completely changing the industry that you're in or the kind of role that you're doing. And that is possible. It's absolutely possible. Again, there are so many choices out there. Again, the challenge with it is sometimes they're overwhelming. So it's just finding the one that works best for you. And then you see on here that our clients are saying 71% of them believe that the talent that they currently have doesn't have the skills that they're going to need. But that doesn't mean that they're not great employees. That doesn't mean that they don't show persistence and loyalty and enthusiasm. They just might need access to a new skill. So, you know, as you go to the next slide and I turn things over to Cecily, what I want to close with is we're hearing it. We know it. Now let's get out there and do something about it. So Cecily, I will turn things over to you.
Thank you so much, Kim. That was wonderful. So the next few slides we're going to go through, I want you to bear with me because we are going to talk about the skills that are in high demand. And if you have specific questions that I mentioned before, definitely put them in the chat box because we want to be able to get to them. We're going to start things off just to see where you think we're going to go from here, what those highest demand skills are. So the next poll Mary is going to launch is actually around what industry you think has the biggest skills gap. So I know you've probably read a lot of things, heard things, so I'm curious to see what you come up with. We have information technology as one of the options, manufacturing, healthcare, financial services, and automotive.
Great, lots of people weighing in, and I will share the results in a few seconds.
Wonderful, thank you.
If you haven't voted, please share your vote now. Okay, sharing results. So looks like most people think information technology.
Wonderful, and that is correct. So yeah, we're going to be talking about IT specifically in some of the upcoming skills because there's the biggest gap there. It's been forecasted, it's been talked about. The other thing that's really interesting that I want to highlight is within the IT industry, it's actually the biggest gap in gender parity, which Career Circle is really committed to changing that. And I know Fairygodboss supports this as well. We really want to see more women in technology. There's a goal out there, you'll hear companies talking about it, to get 50-50, 50 female, 50 male by 2025. We are very far from that, but the companies that are committed to changing the industry and the landscape of that talent pipeline for these IT companies, working together, we can definitely accomplish that. So I want to highlight some of these specific skill sets within the IT industry that are in very, very high demand. And with that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the job titles that fall under each category, the different salaries that you could actually expect to get getting experience in these areas, and then also the demand, where the supply is, right? The candidates, how many candidates are actually active and available versus how many job openings there are. So we're going to walk through that for each one of these. The first one is network and information security, which really can be summed up in cybersecurity. It is our top highest demand skill set right now. There's really too much at stake when it comes to your data, and that's why security is a top concern for the majority of organizations. I mean, think about it, right? You hear about cyber attacks are escalating in frequency and sophistication, and as a result, companies are really scrambling to hire qualified cyber professionals. And this is an industry that you can get certifications and qualifications in without maybe actually going to school for it, or you could go to school specifically for these different areas. So this is going to be eye-opening here. There are 25,000, around 25,000, 26,000 candidates, right? Versus this many job openings. That is 4%. So there's 4% candidates available to the number of job openings that we're seeing in the space. So it is a very, very high demand skill set, and there's a need for the talent in this area. You can see some of the different job titles listed here. Software quality assurance, you'll see a lot of the business continuity planners, meaning if something happened, what would you do with the business? So there's a lot of different job titles. They do vary by organization, but again, we're not going to go into too much detail on each one, but I wanted you to see an overview. The salary range for these types of positions, this is US wide. So if you're interested in your specific market, that's something Career Circle we can definitely provide for you. We have access to different reporting, market specific and job specific. So after this, again, you can just shoot us a note. You'll get our contact information. We'd be happy to provide something more customized. But the salary range is 83,000 on the low end, and then it ranges all the way up to 135 on the high end. Our next in-demand skill set within the IT space is analytics and data management. And it's growing because skills are needed as organizations are striving to be more data-driven. You hear a lot of people probably talking about big data and using that data that they have and making better business decisions. So this culture of information allows for insight into patterns and trends, and critical business decisions are being made with data as the driving force. It's so important for companies. One of my favorite job titles here is business intelligence analyst, and that means that that person actually takes the data and makes better business decisions. So they use it to make those better business decisions. That type of role is very heavy in reporting and analytics, and they use a lot of different systems depending on the organization they work for. So IT professionals with these skills are tasked with helping organizations solve problems and make more informed evaluations, which is a really cool thing to be a part of. Job availability in this space, you see the difference here, right? And look at the number of job openings. It's a huge number US-wide. That's because it's a huge range in terms of there could be just an analyst level position, which is a little bit lower level, all the way to computer network architects, which are helping build the database architecture and how they're going to house the data and keep it secure. So it also falls a lot in line with the cybersecurity space. This salary range is 103,000 all the way up to 135, again, on average in the US. So if you're doing the math, this one's a little bit higher of a percentage, right? Than the 4% that we had for cybersecurity. This is at 8%. So there's 8% candidates available for all job openings, but you can see the vast number of job openings and compared to the other ones we'll look at. So the next one is cloud computing. We've all heard about the cloud, right? It's very confusing at times, but in layman's terms, cloud computing is because more and more it's on the rise because more and more companies are switching from the classic server and infrastructure model to having their networks in-house to cloud solutions. And users can access files and applications from any device in a cloud-based model. That includes, Google's Gmail is a cloud-based function, iCloud, so you use cloud-based technology on a daily basis. And cloud computing services fall into 4 major categories: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and function as a service. So a lot of information on that we can provide in more detail if you're interested in the future. But for now, we're just going to go at a high level and talk about some of the different job titles. So you'll see some of the job titles repeated because they are the same type of role, but instead of doing it for a specific maybe networked or infrastructured company, right? It's a cloud-based organization. So it could be Amazon's cloud functionality, or like I said, Google, or Facebook is cloud-based. We have all these different avenues, and these different roles actually could be anything from financial analyst for this organization to management analyst. So it's very interesting, and it covers a full gamut across the board of different job functions. One of the big ones you hear about is Salesforce. It's a CRM platform, which is a software as a service. And we work with them very heavily. And they're the largest CRM out there right now. And that's another cloud-based service offering. So here we actually have a 13% supply and demand differential. So there's about 8,000 total candidates available compared to 60,000 job openings. And you can tell that I'm going from lower percentage to higher. The salary range here is a little over 6 figures, so 100 grand, all the way up to 143. Next, we have a skill set that's in demand for service desk and tech support. And this is actually growing because of the hardware and software that organizations are investing in and utilizing. They need more people to be able to answer questions, to be able to assist users, and also help with that maintaining security. So it falls under that cybersecurity umbrella. Here's some of the different job titles that you can see. Our supply and demand for this one is at about an 18%. So 100,000, a little over 100,000 total candidates to just shy of 600,000 total job openings. And the salary range is a little bit lower on this one, starting shy of 40,000 and going upwards of 65,000. Again, this is US average, meaning in certain markets it's higher and in certain markets it may be lower. And to round out our top 5, it is application and mobile development and programming. So developers are responsible for web, social, and mobile applications. And more people conduct business on their phones. The skills needed to build and manage these apps are increasing in need. I mean, think about how many apps you use on a daily basis. The people who are in this area actually build those apps. They do everything from programming it to developing it. One of my favorite job titles is this human factors engineer and ergonomists. Very interesting, different job functions in this space, and it's a huge demand. There are a little bit more candidates available in this space because more and more people have been taking courses to actually enter this space because it's been in demand for a few years now. Probably the last 10 years, it's been a huge growing industry. So there's 30% availability. So a little over 200,000 candidates to just shy to just over 650,000 job openings. So that's a 30% ratio. And the salary range is quite high. The low end is still over 6 figures at a little over 110,000, the high end 130. All right, so to round out our top 10, we provided some additional areas of in-demand skill sets still within the IT space. So artificial intelligence, you've all heard about it. So machine learning is one of the most innovative and exciting fields moving into the future, making it one of the most profitable skills that you can learn. From Siri and Alexa to chatbots, predictive analysis to self-driving cars, there's a ton of different futuristic tech out there. And this is an area that if you were interested in getting into and learning some of the skills needed, you could definitely benefit. UI and UX design. UI stands for user interface, and that means that specialists design interfaces with websites and apps to be visually appealing. So you want them to look good for people to want to go to them. UX is actually the user experience, meaning they do a lot of research and testing, everything from like where a logo goes on a website to where we're going to put the contact us form. I mean, every inch of every website, right, is analyzed and determined to be the best experience for the user and how they can get the best experience by using the website. So they do a lot of research and testing to consider every element of how the company will interact with them. Internet of Things is one of my favorites to talk about. So Internet of Things encompasses everything connected to the internet. And when I tried to count how many things are connected to the internet at my house one time, it was scary. So it's everything from devices that talk to each other. It's everything from your doorbell to your thermostat to potentially your Alexa or Google Home devices. And everything that's connected to the internet can be hacked. So more than 7.3 billion devices, that's billion, 7.3 billion will need to be made secure by manufacturers by 2020. So cybersecurity professionals, again, are going to be very heavily sought after in this area as well. And systems and enterprise architecture. This is really important because as companies are investing in new technology, even the cloud-based technology, they're having to get their old systems, their enterprise systems, right, to talk to each other. So there's a lot of people who have or want to learn the skill to get these legacy programs and procedures aligned with the modern practices. So that's an entire space that's being heavily invested in. And then project management. So project planning is more vital than ever, not just in the IT industry, even though it's specific, we're specifically talking about it here. It's across all industries. There's a lot of roadblocks from preventing projects from being completed on time. Talent, right? The supply of people to be qualified to do it is one of those roadblocks. And so a project manager really helps communicate and plan and make sure that everything's executed according to what's promised to either a client or an internal customer. Outside of technology, I know we don't have it on the slide. I do want to mention one of the fields that we're seeing an uptick in as well is healthcare, specifically within clinical research. So you'll see on future slides a few learning providers that actually speak specifically to the clinical research space. And the reason for that is there's so many clinical trials going on, and that's not going to slow down at all. And within North America specifically, it's a great opportunity for folks who maybe you're not interested in the technical side or IT, but you have patient experience or patient contact, or you work well with other people, and those skill sets actually align really well within clinical research. So if you're interested in learning more about other areas outside of IT, we can definitely provide additional information to you. So how can you evaluate your current skill set? That's really important. So you hear all these, what are the top skill sets in demand? And that's great to know, but you probably want to know, well, what do I have that I can offer? And some of those skill sets that you have are translatable. So we're going to talk about evaluating your soft skills. So transferable skills are typically soft skills. They're skills that you learned in past jobs, throughout life. They could be natural strengths that you were born with and have just gone from good to great, right? And those skills typically transfer. So although you may have developed one heavily in one job, you can actually transfer that to your next job. So at its core, it means skills like time management, people management. They're things that would apply to multiple different scenarios, no matter what industry you're working in or what job. The top soft skills in demand are creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, time management, analytical reasoning, and people management. It's really important that if you see something on this list that you think you are naturally great at, or that you've really worked on developing, that you highlight that during your job interviews, your job search process, on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile. And the reason for that is because from all of the employers that we gathered research from, these were by far the top soft skills in demand, meaning they didn't necessarily have people on their teams with these skills and the ability to do these things naturally. And so if you're a creative person and you have proven results using that creativity in a past job, it's really important that you highlight that and be able to articulate that in those interviews, because that could be a skill that's a gap for an organization that you actually would fill. If you're not sure what you have in terms of soft skills, one thing that we do want to point out is a great place to start is actually personality assessments. Career Circle on our website, we have a free 90-second skills assessment. It's pictures based, so you just look at pictures and say yes or no. Is it you? Yes or no? And it gives you a career personality, which also highlights some of those soft skills like innovation, creativity, things like that. So it's a really great place to start. If you haven't ever done the Tradeify personality assessment, Career Circle has a partnership with them, and you can find a free link to it on our website. So once you evaluate your soft skills and you feel like you have an understanding of what those soft skills are, it's really important to also take a look at what those hard skills or core competencies are for certain roles that you want. So we just talked about some of the different skill sets that are in demand within the IT space. So maybe you're not interested in those skills. That's okay. we can apply this to any scenario. But if you are interested, let's use that as an example. So if you're interested in getting into cybersecurity and you don't know where to start, but you have maybe minimal IT experience or no IT experience, one place to look at would be potentially roles that you might want in the future. You could find those roles listed on different job websites, including Fairygodboss, in LinkedIn. There's different positions listed, and see what that job entails and what skills are required. You can also do the same with people, like a LinkedIn profile of someone in a role that you really strive to be one day. So maybe you want to do Mary's job at Fairygodboss one day, and you want to see what her skills are and what her resume looks like, right? You can find her on LinkedIn, I'm sure, and see what her background is and what her top endorsed skills are. And then from there, you might actually have an aha moment and say, oh, I have that skill, I just don't have it highlighted. I can do that. I've had experience with that database. I've done this before. So a lot of times we realize, wow, we're just not highlighting the right things to get aligned with the career that we're looking for. So make sure that you are taking the time to figure out, okay, you know, if I figure out what I want from a career path, and again, Tradeify's personality assessment can help with that career pathing. But if you figure that out and figure out where you want to go, then you want to analyze what skills you need to get there. And once you do that, analyze, oh, I might already have some of those. Now, there are going to be times where you realize, wow, in order to be, let's say, a data and analytics manager or a data and analytics employee, right? You definitely need some sort of database or statistical analysis skills like Excel or SQL. There's different things that you realize you have to have that you don't have. That's then when we see that gap, right? So, okay, these are the skills I have. These are the skills I want. So how are we going to lessen that gap? And that's what we're going to talk about next. What are some ways to come up with learning solutions to bridge the skills gap that you may have identified in yourself? Here are some ways that we're seeing most successful within the marketplace. So mentorship. Mentorship, you've probably heard talked about. It can be formally structured by employers, or you can set it up on your own and reach out to someone. It's a knowledge sharing relationship between an experienced worker and those who seek to learn from them. And it's a useful approach in cultivating skills. So if you find someone that's doing the job that you want and you want to learn from them, say you're less tenured in an area or you have no experience in an area, it's a great way to learn about the role and learn if it's something, a career path maybe that you want to get into. So mentorship relationships are a proven path to help bridge the skills gap. Apprenticeships. When I hear apprenticeships, I always think about more of the skilled trade. And that is true. In the past, it's really been specific to like construction or mining or like metal work, different things like that. But it's actually evolving so much, which is so exciting. We're seeing apprenticeships even in the tech industry where maybe they didn't go to a college or a 4-year degree in a certain area, but they take a certain course and they have a certification. We could set up an apprenticeship for them with an organization to learn the job while they're doing the job, and it's just modeled differently. So it's a really great way to incorporate workers with some level of secondary education within the area that they're interested in learning. Internships you hear about a lot of times while you're in school. It's definitely still highly recommended. So it's been proven that students graduating with internship experience are more likely than students without defined employment. So we definitely are still seeing that across the board. So if you're in school, I definitely recommend finding an internship. I know I did 3 during my time at college, and it definitely helped me realize that HR and recruiting was an area that I was interested in. I did an HR internship and ended up going into that career path. Upskilling. So we're going to talk about this learning solution in more detail. So let's take a closer look at this. What is upskilling? So upskilling is a bridge between the skills you have and the skills you need to get ahead. So Career Circle actually is very passionate in this area, and it's an area we focus on because we partner with experts in education technology to deliver these unique learning experiences, which can be instructor-led or self-paced, and they supplement the necessary support for optimal results for you to get qualified to do this job, to do the job that you're looking to get into. So one of the things that we talk about is training and certification. So upskilling can be different forms. It's either training, certifications, it could be even just taking a course to see if you're interested in that area. So the positive benefits of upskilling, it helps you keep up to date on your latest skills. They're anchored by an assessment proving that you actually learn the content and proving the proficiency. And they're often administered for the certification piece by a standard setting organization. So when employers are looking at the upskilling course content or certification that you got, they know that it was through an approved and proven provider. Some examples of upskilling could be, maybe you're in business and you want to get your project management professional certification, your PMP. Maybe you're interested in getting into IT and you just want to take an entry-level course about coding or about cybersecurity. Maybe you're in IT already and you want to get a certification. You could get a C++, like a certified professional programmer, or a security plus. So there's lots of different options based on what your past experience are. Or there's also vocational ones, such as construction or transportation. So upskilling can be applied to across all industries, and it could be in the form of training or certifications. So now I'm going to ask, because I'm really curious, what's your experience with upskilling? So Mary, if you don't mind launching the last poll that we have prepared, I'd love to hear from people. So yes, I've recently upskilled. I plan on upskilling in the near future. I want to learn more, or I'm not interested in upskilling, and that's fine too.
All right, it looks like everyone is weighing in, Cecily, so I will give everyone a few seconds.
Wonderful.
Here are the results.
Thank you.
So far, it looks like a mix between planning on upskilling in the near future and wanting to learn more.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And that's wonderful. We can definitely provide more information. And sometimes it's, I want to learn more so I know what upskilling content would be best for me. And I know I personally decided to upskill between jobs. I decided to get my certification for senior professional in human resources. And I did the same steps I'm telling you to do. I analyzed where I wanted to go, what I currently had, and then I did a lot of research on the different providers and which course would be best for me.
It's awesome. So it looks like 41% say they plan on upskilling in the near future, 47% want to learn more, and 12% says they have recently upskilled.
Awesome. Well, great job.
And thankfully, everyone is interested in upskilling who is on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. Well, we're so happy to hear that. And not only from the candidate or I guess our perspective, right, but from an employer's perspective, the need for upskilling has absolutely been proven. I'll share a little story with you about Salesforce. So Salesforce, as I mentioned, is a cloud-based CRM, and it's growing, and it's the #1 CRM out there. And they have such a need for talent to have experience on their platform, that they are doing pilot programs in partnership actually with Career Circle, but pilot programs to help get talent the skills and the training they need to be qualified to become database administrators on the Salesforce platform, because they have so many clients that need that experience. They're not able to keep up with the demand. And so similar to what Google did a whole promotion where they actually paid people to get certified on Google Plus, even if they weren't going to be getting a job with Google, right? I think it was 10,000 people they invested in across the country to just get the talent pipelines out there, knowing that it would come back and benefit them at some point. Salesforce is doing a similar thing. So Salesforce is giving an extremely discounted, I think that the pricing is normally just shy of $1,000, and so the courses are less than $100. One of the courses is $99 that we actually support for the database administrator at this point. And they're doing a very short time period of those pilots to be able to drive talent into the communities that their clients needed in. So it's exciting. And so clients are definitely feeling that as well, which is what I wanted to share. So where can you go for upskilling? For those who wanted to learn more, this is not a holistic list, of course, but these are some of the proven providers that we've partnered with, or at least had conversations with, or currently do partner with, that we wanted to highlight. So Kim and I have some 30 odd years combined in the staffing industry, experience in that industry. And when we moved over to Career Circle team to build this platform and help people develop the skills they need to get ahead in their careers, we were amazed. I mean, honestly amazed by how big the e-learning industry is. So there's really no right or wrong selection, but there's a lot of options out there. And I think it can be really overwhelming for people. And each one of these platforms, they have different different reasons to take their courses. Are they self-paced? Are they instructor-led? How long is the course? What's the investment? Is there a certification that's attached at the end of it? Is it actually a certification that is accepted by certain regulating bodies, right? So there's tons of questions based on the course, the skill that you want to upskill in, that you need to ask to make sure that you're making the best decision for yourself. And that's what we do. So we can absolutely help if you have any questions after this about kind of what would be best for you based on what your career path is, or if you're just trying to figure it out from step one. But we wanted to highlight some of the ones that we've had some great success with. So specifically Salesforce, Vieras, Barnett International. Vieras and Barnett International are specific to clinical research. UMBC is specific to the Baltimore market, so it's University of Maryland, Baltimore County. WazU, WazU is actually started by Steve Wozniak, one of the original founders of Apple. Pluralsight, Udacity, Udemy, and Coursera are some ones that you can explore or that we can help you explore. All right, so we are wrapping things up. We wanted to put out there kind of some next steps that we would love for each of you to take. I know we only had a short period of time, so we put a lot of content in a short period of time, and I'm sure there's some follow-up questions. So definitely go to careercircle.com, create a free account. You can access the Tradeify personality assessment. You can access some of the course content and the deals that we have going on. And then you'll also, by becoming a member, get access to the job opportunities through the Allegis family of companies. As Kim mentioned, we're part of that Allegis family. Right now, there's over 8,000 open jobs within those organizations. And we can actually connect you with a local recruiter in your market and advocate on your behalf after we understand what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a job, it's a great avenue. And in partnership with Fairygodboss, we'd love to keep the conversation going by joining our Career Circle group. We just started it, so we're one of the first groups. We'll post some content and articles and different conversation starters, and we're gonna get that group really going. We just created it, so you'll just stay tuned, join the group, stay tuned, and it's going to be a great place to have dialogue further on not only the skills gap, but different upskilling opportunities and how you can advance your career by potentially taking it to the next level and not falling victim to those statistics that we talked about. And also like, follow, and share. You can find us on social media on all the different platforms. So now I will turn it back over to Mary. I think she's going to field some of the question and answers within the chat box. So if you have any questions, feel free to plug them in now or comments. Just let us know what you're thinking. And thank you so much for letting us take some time out of your day at the lunch hour, none the least on the East Coast. And we just always like to end with saying thank you for being in our circle.
Yes, thank you, Cecily. That was so interesting. As Cecily mentioned, we have time for questions, so feel free to use the Q&A functionality, or you can drop them in the chat, whatever works best for you. And I do want to reiterate their personality assessment is really interesting. I've done it. It literally takes like a few seconds to go through, and the report is really interesting and I think pretty on point. So if you're trying to evaluate your soft skills, as Cecily mentioned, and maybe where you could strengthen some of your skills, it's a great resource.
Thanks, Mary. I'm so glad you found it positive and helpful. I thought it was so accurate when I took it. It was scary.
So one of our participants is interested in the Salesforce pilot program you mentioned. How can they get more information about that?
Absolutely. So Mary, in the follow-up email, is my information shared?
Yes.
Yes, so they can email me directly if you don't mind shooting me an email. We actually have a cohort starting on November 4th is our next class for that. So I'd love to give you some more information.
Great.
Yeah, and this is Kim. I was going to say as well that when you sign up for that free account, everyone will get a call from the experience manager. And so as soon as you get that call, letting them know as well that you're interested, she can absolutely get you connected.
Oh, great point, Kim. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So does anyone else have any other questions? I'm seeing lots of thank yous, great insights in the chat, which I totally agree. So we'll give it another few moments for questions. Oh, we have one coming in. So do you have any recommendations for upskilling in a digital marketing role or customer marketing?
That's a great question. Well, Kim, do you know, I know you've had some conversations with some additional learning providers. Right now, Career Circle, we don't have anything specific to digital marketing.
Yeah, I can take that. If somebody, I'm trying to figure out the best way to get you an answer back, because there are a couple that we've been vetting, but none that I would feel confident saying that we've completed the vetting process for. When you sign up for that free account, do me a favor and just tag it, Annie, let her know that you posed that question, and then I can personally call you back. And you said it was digital marketing and content marketing, is that correct?
Customer marketing, yeah.
Customer marketing. And
customer marketing, okay.
That would be good too, because whoever posed that question, there's some different, like, are you looking for exposure into learning more about that? Are you already in it and want to learn more about analytics and conversions? Like, kind of a little more detail would be helpful too. So that conversation when you sign up for the free account, when you talk to Annie, kind of explain to her what you're looking for so we can actually advise you best, because I know there's a very broad range of learning options based on what, are you looking for exposure into like what it is or a specific area that you'd like to get better at?
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I would have everyone consider, you have providers like a Udemy that may be, I would say, a lower cost option that gives you a lot of that exposure, but may not dive deep into a full curriculum or certification. So that would be one thing I would think about as well. What are you hoping to accomplish at the end of the curriculum? And that will allow me to give you some more insight on a recommendation as well.
Perfect. And the person who posed that question says, great, thanks. They are contemplating a career change. So it's really exciting.
Awesome.
Love
to hear that.
We have a question in the chat. Do you know of one of the upskilling vendors that deal with Alteryx, Alteryx? I probably butchered that pronunciation.
Kim?
Yeah, so within data analytics, I can check. I want to say Udemy does, but let me double check on that. But I think that's going to be under Udemy. I don't believe there was provider goes that deep, but let me find out. My gut feeling is Udemy does.
And I have a call with our partner at Wazoo University on Wednesday, so I'll also ask about that specific that specific need. So if you ever have a need to, we can see if our providers have a discounted option within the software, and we'll get back to you. So just make sure to follow back up with us on that one.
Perfect. And these are all great questions too when you create your free account with Career Circle to mention these, and then also by joining the Fairygodboss group, because the Career Circle team will be plugged into that directly as well. And you can ask all of these questions as well. And Mary,
I was just going to say, I'm so sorry, I don't think we mentioned the other thing that Career Circle does on behalf of everyone is that we negotiate discount rates on all of the upskilling. So I would say, if you're interested in something and you don't have it, we can probably get it through one of the providers, and I just don't want anyone to pay full price for that. So let us know, and we'll work hard to advocate on everyone's behalf and get them what they're looking for at a discounted rate.
That's awesome, Kim. So we have time for one more question. So what other companies are offering pilot programs to bridge the skills gap that you know of?
That's a great
Do you want
question.
me to take it, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I've had exposure to the Google and Salesforce, but I know you've been doing this longer, so I'd love to hear what you've seen.
Yeah, so I think, certainly Google, when you think about Google and Salesforce, a lot of what they're doing is creating talent pipelines to support the work that they do. So there's that aspect of it. But then you also see, even UMBC, while it's in Maryland, a lot of the curriculum they're doing is self-paced. And so you can access it digitally. And so even with, let's say, their cyber offering, what they're doing is creating these apprentice programs where, perhaps you're working at a client site during the day, taking the coursework at night. So, WAS does something similar with their tech residency program. So again, I'm seeing sometimes you have like a Google or a Salesforce, but then you also see these other providers that are really starting to put a lot of emphasis, which I'm happy about, on how do you take the curriculum and apply it as experience, if that makes sense.
That's a great point. And as Kim said, what we're seeing in the market is that they're realizing that a 4-year degree is not necessarily required anymore. And so that shift has also, been the precursor to what we're seeing in some of these pilot programs. But Apple, Netflix, what am I missing, Kim? I know some of those companies made an announcement and they are no longer requiring Google, thank you, no longer requiring, my lights just went out, no longer requiring the 4-year degree because they know certifications and upskilling can absolutely get them the talent that they need.
Great. Well, thank you
Absolutely
so much. That's awesome. That's really interesting news to hear too about those companies and the focus on upskilling. Because I think as the market changes, you're absolutely right. And what worked a few years ago doesn't necessarily work today with how quickly technology is changing. So Kim, Cecily, do you guys have anything you want to leave the participants with before signing off?
I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you all, and thank you to Fairygodboss. We're really passionate about growing through life, right? Not just going through it, and we definitely want to help you do that. So anything you need, connect with us, and we'll be here to support you every step of the way.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was so informative. For all of the participants, we'll be emailing out the recording afterward, along with resources and how to stay in touch with Career Circle and how you can join their group on Fairygodboss as well. So thank you all again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Thank you.